Welcome back, Ravens flock, to another episode of Ravens Across the Pond. Joining me tonight, DC and Nathan. How are we?
Good as always, mate. Always good after a win.
Yeah, good evening. How are you?
Hangover, Remembrance Day yesterday, wasn't it? So day out with the veterans. Severely regretting the 2 bottles of port I drank post 10 p.m. So yeah, it is what it is. But we go again. Disclaimer: didn't watch the game because I was out in town, so I've watched it in parts today in between meetings. Seen the full game, but it was in bit parts. So Ravens win on the road against the Vikings 27-19. I thought the secondary was outstanding, apart from Nathan's favourite, Nate Wiggins. Lamar Jackson again, I thought he was superb. We do need to chat about the O-line. Daniel Falele is, he's got the strength structure of a soggy breadstick. I thought Kyle Hamilton amazing. Marlon Humphrey with another interception. Malachi Starks with back-to-back games of interceptions. Mark Andrews back-to-back games of touchdowns. Derek Henry got going towards the end. 75 yards rushing, was the rushing leader on the day. Zay Flowers with 75 yards receiving, was the receiving leader on the day. There was a lot to break down. There were some dubious plays from the Vikings that we'll probably look into. An obvious hip drop tackle on Rashad Bateman. He's got a high ankle sprain, so I'm presuming he's going to be doubtful all week. Maybe might not play on Sunday. And there was one more thing as well. Oh yeah, JJ McCarthy's 2 interceptions. Ray Charles' eyes could have seen that they were interceptions there. So let's break it down, gents. I shall open the floor for discussion and criticism of Nate Wiggins.
Before we go into Nate Wiggins, I think let's give the defensive line some flowers. 12 quarterback hits in a much improved bit of pressure going on against the quarterback. On another day, we only just got the 1 sack, but on another day, it easily could have been 3 or 4. There are a few where you were just kind of shouting at the TV, just finish the play off. There was plenty of times that 12 hits could have turned into 3 or 4 sacks on the day. But I think it showed in other areas that JJ McCarthy was completely kind of off his game with the amount of pressure that was getting to him. Kyle Hamilton had an absolute rocket of a day, batting down passes, seemingly every 3rd or 4th snap. He was getting lots of pressure. Jermont Jones played a lot more snaps than I thought he would actually, but he really is going to make a difference on that line, allows us to do a lot of different things on the kind of front end. So very good on that one. Yeah. Nate Wiggins, sadly, his job on the day seems to be to follow Jalen Naylor around the field, which on the plus side meant that Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison were restricted to about 70 yards between them, but Jalen Naylor had an amazing 5 for 124 on plays where Nate Wiggins just either refused to wrap up in the tackle or at one point for his touchdown just seemingly gave up on the play. So I think Nate Wiggins is probably going to get a bit of a talking to, but the rest of the secondary was completely lights out. On a day where it kind of felt the Vikings beat the Vikings and not the Ravens beating the Vikings. 8 different false start penalties, which apparently were attributed to the Ravens and the way they were calling their kind of audibles up front. So fair play if you can go on the road and commit the home team into making false starts, because normally that's kind of the home field advantage. You're not making those kind of mistakes. But for me, I think it was more of a Vikings shot themselves in the foot game and we just managed to take advantage of it.
On the subject of getting to the quarterback, I did say in the preview show that the Vikings were susceptible to quarterback hits. So I'll notch that one up there.
You can have your flowers as well.
Yeah, I will take my flowers. DT, what were your views on it?
Well, I think you're absolutely right, Nathan, in the sense that they beat themselves. Those 8 penalties were insane. I think it was the first time that's happened on a home game since 2016 for any team to have that many. I think it was Aaron Jones, I think it was, the running back, who came out and said that it was really difficult to hear that Ravens were making some calls for shifts on the line, which confused them. I don't know how much of an excuse that is, but it sounded loud there. You heard the crowd there. They were really kind of going for it to put us off, and it ended up having the adverse effect, which was quite funny. I think the defense did turn up to it yesterday. I think we struggled on offense more than we expected us to. I think we all called quite a big score on the offense. Didn't quite come out that way. I think Jackson had a good game, but I think there were a few throws that against a better team probably would have been intercepted maybe, or a bit of luck. A couple of tips on there that could have been caught by anyone. Definitely a few kind of heart in the mouth moments from Jackson, which I think we got away with a bit. And then we had a couple of drops as well, sort of early on in the game. A couple of plays that I thought, oh dear, this is going to be a game that's going to go the wrong way. It was kind of reminiscent of the Steelers game a few years ago where we absolutely beat ourselves by dropping the ball too much. But yeah, luckily we grew into the game and got back into it, which allowed us to get the win, and that's the most important thing.
Malachi Starks, like back-to-back games of interceptions, but that was a huge interception because, you know, the takeaway set up Tyler Loop's field goal, and it helped obviously the Ravens regain some kind of momentum because they were, obviously at the time they were trailing 10-3. Are we now starting to see the Malachi Starks that we thought we were drafting? I know earlier on in the podcast series we had mentioned, I think we were talking, it might have been when Kevin Oakes was on the show, and you know, him and Mike Green had kind of hit this rookie wall. But once they get through that, you know, we are going to start seeing great things. I know I said earlier on that in the introduction that I don't know what JJ McCarthy was doing. It was just a heave into double coverage, third down. And I mean, on his point of view, you know, that was only his second career interception. But you lead the game 10-3, you have momentum. That there was no momentum with the Ravens at the time. And I'm just thinking that there's bad plays and there's really fucking bad plays. And at the time, that was like diabolical. That was Titanic hitting the iceberg, like changing momentum. Do you know what I mean? There was for me from that, there was only one way it was going to go. I know we went on to throw another interception as well. We'll probably discuss that, but just how big a performance from Malachi Starks and how crucial was that to regain the momentum?
Yeah, it was a really big play. I think he's been helped with the kind of defensive back realignment we've had since the trade we made for Gilman. It's moved Hamilton over, which means Starks is now playing in a bit more position he's comfortable with. Very good day on the whole for Ravens defensive rookies. Mike Green had a really nice blow up of a play, nice tackle for loss on Aaron Jones, where he just kind of blitzed his way somehow through what was generally not a bad kind of offensive line performance from the Vikings if you exclude the millions of false start penalties. I think it was more of just kind of the front we were putting up. But yeah, Starks and Green had a great day. And I think they're just showing kind of why they were where they were in the draft process. Like Green obviously didn't drop to the second round for footballing reasons. It was off the field stuff. So he could have been a first round pick on the day. Malachi Starks, I think if he wasn't a safety, he would have been in the top 16 picks. It was just it's a position that other teams don't value as much, which is why they drop. So I think two great value picks there. And I think it's really adding to the defense. And it's nice that Zach Orr's now kind of getting a little bit of the heat off him. And we're probably now looking back at Todd Monken and putting a bit of heat on him because some of the play calling at times on Sunday was a little bit suspect. I get that they're getting a lot of pressure, but the amount of bizarre screens that just were not coming off was a little bit worrying. But I say the win's the win.
I was going to come on to Todd Monken because obviously DT co-host is the chairman of the Todd Monken fan club. And it seems to me that people are like, oh, Todd Monken puts his play calls down his pants at press conferences and everything's funny and what a guy Todd Monken is. DT, are you wearing thin with Todd Monken?
It's frustrating. Like, there'll be flashes where he'll put some brilliant play calls together. There'll be an amazing drive. And then that'll either be in reaction to an absolute shocking series of plays or it'll be followed up directly by an absolute shocking series of plays. And I think, even just in seeing Keaton Mitchell coming on, making some amazing runs, we saw that for a while Henry was getting stuffed down the middle. He was making maybe 4 or 5 yards every now and again, but for a lot of the time he was getting stuffed. Brought Mitchell on. Mitchell had a couple of great runs down the edge. I think went for 30 yards across sort of 4 carries, and then just disappeared from the game again. We tried to let Henry run down the side, which absolutely worked in some ways. He gained an extra 10 yards or whatever, but it's just one of those things where whether you abandon the run game, whether you abandon something else that's working, it just doesn't seem to be consistent. And that's the frustrating thing, because we can get away with it in games like that one, but we're not going to get away with it come playoffs.
No. I didn't mention these guys during the introduction, but I think that they deserve the flowers as well. The interior defensive line, obviously heaped massive amounts of pressure on JJ McCarthy anytime he was trying to throw something up the middle. Travis Jones, 2 deflections and a sack, 3 quarterback hits. CJ Okoye and John Jenkins each had 1 deflection. That kind of, as a quarterback and you're seeing everything getting deflected, you're getting 3 quarterback hits off Travis Jones, which, I don't even want a third of a quarterback hit off Travis Jones, let alone 3 full ones, and then a sack on top of that. JJ McCarthy is the only quarterback in the league who's gone home with cauliflower arse because he was being on his arse that many times that game. I just, how much pressure is that putting on the quarterback? And obviously then you see the interceptions come, and just how good were the interior defensive line that game.
Well, I think JJ McCarthy needs to change his name from 9 to 6 because he was turned upside down so much that game. I think,
Very good.
as soon as you get unraveled like that, it's going to become a big part in their mind. And then between that and the penalties and the interceptions he threw, his mind would have been gone by the end of the game. It was a huge, huge moment to get to 9.
Yeah, penalties are huge because once you're starting with like first or second and 15, almost every drive, it allows the defensive backs to kind of take a more step up, and you can get more pressure because you're now not as worried about the yardage situations. So he was obviously under a lot more pressure just because of the kind of hole he was being put into on almost every single drive, which kind of just allows you to be a bit more freer with your defensive play calling. So it really was just a calamity from the Vikings on all fronts. And to be honest, they were lucky by halftime. If any of those drives where we took advantage of, if they weren't just all field goals, we could have been like 2 touchdowns clear before the half. I know we eventually slowly pulled away, and really you can kind of knock off their last touchdown because it was a 2-score game pretty much until 3 minutes to go. And then by that point, the drive after, they burned all their timeouts. So I think they were lucky in a way. They could have been a lot worse for them. We could have been talking about this game in a different way if we'd made it a complete performance, and we really took advantage of some of the defensive kind of stops and plays we made. It could have been a much better day. I think it just leaves there's a few questions to be asked, I think, on the other side of the ball on a day where not really much popped out on the stat sheets. And I know a lot of that's probably down to like the field positions we were getting because of the defense, but I just think on another day against a better team, that performance probably wouldn't have been enough, but it was today.
I'll tell you one thing that we can call out, though, that we didn't mention as well, actually, in the opener, is it's a rare day that Lamar Jackson's not the best player on the field. But yesterday, he wasn't the best Jackson on the field. Keandre Jackson, special teams performance, absolutely outstanding. The special teams made some really big plays. Obviously, Loop hitting everything apart from one of those field goals, which was the long one. Some absolutely fantastic punts as well. All round, again, another team. Special teams continue to do well for us this season, which is really good to see.
It was almost back-to-back kickoff return fumble recoveries. That the second one still wasn't quite sure what went on
I don't
there.
know how we didn't catch that one.
It's one of those times where it just piles up too big, and I guess the ball just kind of squared out again. But it could have been back-to-back kickoff fumble recoveries, which would have been just, and would have made the score even better. Tyler Loop, starting to maybe get some question marks on Tyler Loop. I mean, it was a 56-yarder, which in today's NFL standards is not particularly long. Like you suddenly start getting question marks now at the 60, and a lot of his kicks were not going particularly down the middle for my liking. So Tyler Loop's on my kind of list of players to watch. And once it gets to, if we do manage to make it to the playoffs, how comfortable are you going to be trying to back Tyler Loop for a game winner at the moment? Because I think he's a bit touch and go. So hopefully see a bit more improvement from him on there. But yeah, Keandre Jackson, the rest of the special teams, great performance from them.
I need to see the replay of that Loop one because it looked to me like it went over the post and wasn't far wide, but that might have just been the angle. But you're right, the rest of them are going down the middle. I think we need to see a little bit more consistency on them, but it's one of his first misses.
On Nathan, you mentioned the Vikings burning timeouts. I brought me on one of my biggest bugbears with John Harbaugh and his ill-chosen times to call timeouts. What the fuck was going on there? Is he got like timeout Tourette's or something? Like I mean, we don't see it every game, but we see it a couple of times like a season, and it's kind of like who calls timeouts better than us? Fucking everybody, John. Even Brian DeBall, who's just been sacked from the 2-8 Giants, calls timeouts better than you, mate. Jesus fucking Christ. That's my rant on the timeouts. Another guy I want to give his flowers to, Mark Andrews. Back-to-back games of touchdowns. He is now only 4 yards short of breaking the franchise receiving record. Obviously, he only had 3 catches for 14 yards. On Sunday, obviously, we're seeing reduced service to Mark Andrews, but we know what else he does at the line and blocking and all that. How huge is Mark Andrews for the Ravens between now and the end of the season, and how huge has he been for this franchise because of the connection that him and Lamar Jackson have had since they both turned up? It's been phenomenal.
Yeah, obviously, I think great part of Lamar's development having kind of a target like that you can rely on from day one. Probably a mistake that we made in the Flacco era was not giving some reliable down the middle target to just kind of throw at the seam to. I think it's definitely helped him. For the rest of the season, I imagine he'll still be very important, kind of on the line. He had a nice pitch actually on a designed run play to Lamar, which I think went for about 8 or 9 and got a nice first down. So they trust him in situations like that, which I don't see them quite trusting to like a Likely or a Kolar just yet. So I think on that front, yeah, very important. Being able to play 2 tight end sets against certain defenses is obviously going to be very useful going into the end of the season when you've got kind of different fronts and different ways to beat teams. I imagine that the target spread will still be very even between the 3 players. Charlie Kolar had another nice catch in Sunday's game as well. And that, all these tight ends, they earn their targets. No one's being given anything in this offense, which is nice. Everyone's kind of getting what they earn out of it. So it's nice to see that. But I think just from kind of a veteran leadership angle as well, he's probably giving Likely and Kolar like really good like tips and stuff on how to play better on the line. And yeah, I think going into a run at the end of the season, you need kind of veteran presences like that, offense, defense, kind of everywhere. So it can only help.
Yeah, I think we've seen his role change quite a bit. I know there's a lot of chat in some of the other communities about he doesn't get any touchdowns anymore. He doesn't get many like receptions anymore, and that's not through him. That's through our team developing. That changed when Zay Flowers came in. Mark Andrews was always our short yardage over the middle, move the chains guy, and that's the role that Zay Flowers plays as a receiver for the most part. So absolutely don't expect to see him get as much. And actually, people say people before early in the season were calling Mark Andrews out for being washed, and it's like, no, just because he's not scoring as many touchdowns, that's just changes in the play. That's different personnel coming in. He's still doing incredible work on the blocking game when he's not involved in receiving the ball. And as we saw the last couple of games, he's still incredibly reliable. He's still going to be there to make a play, receive the ball, and make a great catch and score the touchdowns.
Did anybody see the clip of Josh Allen the weekend?
Oh, what the call for taunting that was
that one.
The one where he's trying to get when he flops to the ground.
Yeah, so
when he
there was a
let go of the
couple.
ball as well.
Yeah, so yeah, there was 3. Calling for a penalty. For me, like I'm going off here because it's going to bring me back onto the Lamar Jackson. But seeing stuff like that in sports like fucks me off like immensely. There's I hate seeing it in soccer. Like simulating for a yellow card or a player to get sent off. And now that they get booked for that. Would anybody be against if somebody is calling for a foul, like, you know, we all know that refs make mistakes. You know, there's been pass interference calls that haven't been made, etc. You know, missed holds, all that kind of stuff. But would anybody be against there being a rule brought in where if you're asking for a penalty flag, then a penalty flag gets thrown against you and it's a 5-yard penalty to get? I can't stand it. Like, and they've got rid of, you know, players get fined for celebrating touchdowns. One of the greatest things to do in that game, in that game, like in soccer, scoring a goal. You imagine in the Premier League, you've scored a goal, like, and you've just got to, you know, high five, see you later, we're off. Last minute of the game, like, and players are getting fined for that now. But you're allowed to turn around and cry to the ref. You know, like, he had actual tears coming, like, down his fucking eyes. Like, he needed a snorkel to get off the pitch. He cried that much about it. I'd be like, bang, penalty, 5 yards. Like, anyone against that?
It would have to be certain positions only, because on the line, you would literally have it every play when they're trying to say it was a false start, and then the line are pointing at the other team saying, no, it was encroachment or offside. So I think you would get offsetting penalties almost every play on that one. And
I think in regards to hits and pass interference and face mask, like, let the refs do, and obviously they've got, you know, fucking VAR, but 10 times better. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can't stand it. It's something that it's been in the game for a long time, but on a pair, just for me personally, it fucks me off. Fucks me right off.
I think it's a tough one because things like face masks and stuff, you know, there are instances where it just doesn't get called. And I'm not really funny. If someone's fingers are going towards my eyes and I'm going to get angry and be like, "What? Come on, ref, like, what are you doing?"
Yeah.
I think when it's just such little bitchery that you see from Josh Allen, I think something needs to be done. Or, you know, Bateman got fined 25k for going off on it last week. Fine Allen. 25k is not going to mean anything to him, but at least it probably will take away his MVP that he should have got anyway.
Yeah, should have got it. I mean, and we all know that was for an arm punt. His run punt at the weekend went well, didn't it?
So, speaking of arm punts, did you see in the post-match interview for the Dolphins, what's his name? So the head coach was saying that there was two long third down.
Mike McDaniel.
Yeah, Mike McDaniel was saying there was two or three long third throws that he said that he was encouraging them to do to treat it almost like a punt. So Mike McDaniel was calling for arm punts on third downs, apparently.
Yeah, but I mean, you say, well, look at Mike. He looks lost, doesn't he now? And he looks like he's hitting a bong in that locker room. Every time I see him, he just looks like out of it. Like, do you know what I mean? Something out of Pineapple Express. But yeah, no, I was just asking that about Josh Allen because won the MVP last year. Shouldn't have won it. We all know who should have won it. Everything in black and white says he should have won it. But, you know, the Associated Press went with Josh Allen. 3 weeks ago, the Ravens were 1-5. Joint worst start in franchise history. We know about the injuries. We know that Lamar Jackson, the best quarterback in the league, the greatest dual threat quarterback ever, was out injured. Since he's come back, I know the defense has upped its game. And, you know, the offense wasn't great against the Vikings. If Lamar Jackson takes us to the playoffs, he has to be surely the runaway MVP. I know people will say when you look at, you know, Drake May and the Patriots, you know, Baker Mayfield, if he kind of gets back on track with the Bucks. Nathan, who did you say, Nathan? In the
I think Matt Stafford is still the favorite at the moment. He's having a very good season with the Rams.
But you just look at how, like, most valuable player on any franchise in the league would be Lamar Jackson.
I think you have to look at that. You think, without him, where were we? When obviously, even you take the Bills game where he put up a shit ton of points, like that game wasn't on him. But then actually, you take the kind of things that have happened as a result of that, even off the field with him removing the things from the dressing room, that's an MVP trait as well. Everything he's doing for the team, on the field, off the field, is incredibly powerful for this team, and it makes this team so much better. There is no one more valuable for their team than Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, it's such a narrative-driven kind of award at the moment as well. So I think, let's say the Ravens only lose one game between now and the end of the season. He's probably a lock. If we only get to 9-8 and we sneak the North, it probably goes to Matt Stafford or someone who's got the stats to pop, which automatically pops out. It's a narrative thing. It will be driven by kind of how we end up. If we run the table for the rest of the season, you'll start seeing momentum for it grow at the moment, just because I think game time missed and MVP doesn't actually mean MVP. So at the moment, he's got a bit of a mountain to climb on that one. But yeah, run the table, lose one game between now and the end of the season, people will start talking about it. And you'll probably start hearing the storylines of, oh, we probably should have won it last year. And nonsense like that will come around again. And, but yeah, we'll see. At the moment, I think Stafford's probably got it. But anything could happen between now and the end of the season. So we've got probably only 2 games that I wouldn't say just 2 games that are difficult, because the AFC North is just an absolute bloodbath.
And the back-to-back as well, and this was going to be my point. So game 15 for the Ravens, the 21st of December, at the Patriots. And then game 16, the host the Packers on the 28th of December. I look at this team that like now different. It's going to sound. I think the Ravens are going to win out. Remember when we finished 14-2. We start the season 2-0, dropped to 2-2, and then we won 12. Because this team is winning games without the offense. Have we seen that yet? We've seen that yesterday, and it's an offense with Lamar Jackson, and the defense is winning games. And I just think, so the next you've got Browns, Jets, Bengals, Steelers, Bengals, and then obviously a bit of a grim end, Patriots, Packers, and then Steelers the 4th of January. I can see the Ravens winning out, and I think Lamar will get going against the Browns and Jets. I think he'll put up astronomical numbers there, and then it's into a run of division games, Bengals, Steelers, and then Bengals again. I just think we'll win out, and I think he is an absolute lock for MVP. I know you're saying there about Matt Stafford. I think what Jake May is doing with the Patriots, Mike Vrabel's gone in and like he's totally like flipped that organization around from where it was. Like they had talent, because of where they'd finished in the league the last couple of years, and the high draft picks they've had talent, but they've had the culture change. And I look at that like penciled in on my calendar, the 21st of December, Ravens Patriots. That one decides where the MVP goes.
I think we absolutely can win out. I think I've seen enough times of us having dodgy games against the likes of the Steelers, and it depends what Steelers are turning up. They had an absolute shocking game yesterday. They had a great result the week before against the Colts, wasn't it?
Did you see Mike Tomlin's reaction to that question?
Well, the question about Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, what do you say? What do you think about Aaron Rodgers' performance? And he just went, "What do you next?"
Yeah. I mean, that says it all, really. So it depends on which one we're going to get, but we can beat them. But I think we have games we can beat ourselves, and that's still not beyond the realms of possibilities. So I think there may be one loss in our future at least, but I still, even with that, I think that Lamar's got a good shout for the MVP if we get to the playoffs and come back from that 1-5 deficit.
Yeah, bite-sized chunks. I think we play the Steelers in just under a month's time. In that span, as you say, we got Browns, Jets, Bengals. The Steelers have Bengals, Bears, and Bills. So with just one game currently in it, I think the first order of business is to be leading the North, at least by the time before we play the Steelers, or immediately after the 4th quarter has finished. You want to be in that 4th seed spot. And then you go from there. If the Steelers end up completely tanking, just going into a hole for the rest of the season, then fine, you've got the 4th spot. But say the Steelers end up playing more games like they did against the Colts than games like they did against the Chargers, then you need to keep winning games, because at the moment to be the 7th seed, you've got to be, is it 5-4? I think the Chiefs currently aren't even in the top 7. I think the Jags currently have the 7th seed. So yeah, you're looking at 8th spot at 5-4. So you've got to stack wins in case the AFC North continues to be competitive if you want a shot at that 7th seed. And if we win out, then you don't worry about it. But I think at the moment you get that, you make sure 4th seed is secure. We've still got a lot of AFC North games to go.
First thing to do on the to-do list, being obviously how far behind we were, is just get back to 500, get back to 5-5, and then take it from there. Saying that, I still think we'll win out, and I'm not bothered.
Nathan, we all know the Steelers are going to win 4 and lose 4 and finish 9-8, so it's what they do.
You didn't seem too keen on my Drake May Lamar Jackson showdown on the 21st. Might be where the MVP lands.
Just with the way these MVP narratives go, I imagine there will be a groundswell of support for Matt Stafford, who might not have many years left to be given one. And I think Drake May has got a very long, promising career ahead of him. And I think sometimes these awards don't go to the most deserving player. And I just feel like it's going to all line up for Stafford. Again, narratives could change. Matt Stafford could completely fall off a cliff. And then by that point, yeah, it could be Drake May versus Lamar Jackson. But right now, knowing how these things tend to go, I would put my money on Stafford.
Fair enough.
It's interesting. We mentioned the defense there as being part of our turnaround. We had a question this week from Brett Smith, obviously UK Ravens fan. He said, has Zach Orr done enough over the last 3 games to show that he's the man for the job going forward?
Can I answer this one first, Nathan, before you? On paper and how you see it and how the defense has performed, I'd say yes. I think it was I think they've highlighted that it was probably a personnel issue somewhere along. They've made changes and we've seen Kyle Hamilton be phenomenal. Go back to the Kyle Hamilton that we know and love, and the Kyle Hamilton that we are paying an awful lot of fucking money for. But on playing devil's advocate here, why the fuck haven't you noticed that personnel change up until just before the fucking deadline? Made a move and corrected it earlier on. Like, I understand that you need to give, things chances and that. And the other concern is it's like a running trend with Zach Orr. The struggle early on in the season. Do I think he'll get another shot at it next year? I think he will. But if the defense get off to another shocking start next year, even if the Ravens are winning games, I think if the Ravens are winning games and the defense is having a shocking start, it makes a change easier. I don't think they could have made a change this season until the season was, if the season was dead and buried. If we went on and if Lamar didn't come back when he did and we lost another 2 games, I think, yeah, he would have been gone. He just needs the defense needs a hot start next year. But it can all change between now and the end of the season, as Nathan said, and we discussed there. There's so many games going on, a lot of divisional games. If the defense gets rolled over in a couple of these divisional games against teams that, we should be expecting to, like, you look at that schedule now, apart from the Patriots, Packers, we should be winning out. If we lose one of them other games and it comes down onto the defense, which, let's face it, it probably will do, because Lamar Jackson is proven time and time again he can carry us so far. The defense has just let him down. Then maybe his head does roll in the off season. If not, we win out, get to the playoffs, make a good run, maybe win it all. And then obviously, yeah, he will get another shot. I've nearly answered the question there because I've gave 2 kind of answers, so I'm sorry, Brett.
I mean, that is the answer, though, isn't it? It's a little bit of yes, a little bit of no. I mean, in a snapshot right now, he's trending probably just enough upwards. Yes. I don't know what we're going to learn in a positive light against the Browns and Jets. I think it can only get worse for him if things go south. But yeah, he'll definitely, Bengals, Steelers, Bengals, Packers, Patriots is a run where I think we really see if this defense has really turned that corner. So I think by the end of the season, we'll know. My gut feeling says that he probably gets replaced in the off season, just because I don't think he's going to have a great either end to the season or a playoff run. I think it's probably a bit too little, too late, and the slow starts are probably going to end up going against him because with the personnel we've now got, I think you could probably find a coach that can get these guys firing on week one. And I think it gets to a point where you have to go, now the people are here, you still haven't got it done. So
on that though, sorry, TT, on that, you might be able to, you can answer this one. You go into next season, say we don't win it all this year. And go into next season, John Harbaugh's last contract year, going into 27. Are they going to want to make a coaching change at defense if they haven't got Harbaugh tied down to an extension? Because Harbaugh is could go, and then you know what other head coaches do. They're going to want to bring in their own staff. So if you're giving Zach Orr another contract or another deal, you're then looking at that's something else that you need to get off the wage bill. Do they just go 27? One last ride, let's go, and then you'd have a wholesale change for 28.
Yeah, I think that's a big possibility. I think obviously it really depends on what happens at the end of the season, how we finish out, and what the deal on Harbaugh is. Do they let him see out the contract? Do they move him in-house to another role? Have him a nice little goodbye, make it his choice, whatever. It all depends on how this season goes. And I think you're right. Like they probably would want to see who we get a head coach and who they'd want to bring in. I mean, I think for me, it's not the results that are the terrible thing, is the bad starts. And it's 2 seasons in a row now where he's got going slowly and then it's had to turn around. And it's like, we can't afford to do that again next season. We're going to rely on some MVP magic this year to kind of turn around and get those kind of back-to-back wins to see us out the season. I just think we need to really look at it and think, right, is this going to be sustainable? Is anything going to change? Are we going to be able to do this from the start next season? Because 3rd season in as a defensive coach, you should be able to have that performance and let it go over the off season as well.
Nathan, sorry, you're on there.
Yeah, I think on the point about if you're giving Harbaugh like the prove it year, I think that'll be down to him then to decide, like, if I've got one more stab at this, do I believe in Zach Orr? And I think if he knows he's got one more year to kind of earn another contract, he'll probably roll the dice because he knows that he can't afford a slow start again. So I think if it does come down to that and that's the way it's going to be played, then I would probably lean him more, bringing like a real veteran guy in who he knows can just come in straight off the bat day one. He knows he's going to have these guys ready for week one. If he gets a new contract this offseason, say we get to an AFC championship game or something and they see enough, then he might feel comfortable enough to let Zach Orr develop again. I mean, he's still young for a coach, so he's got time to develop. It's just, do the Ravens have the time for him to develop?
Is the window open long enough for them? Anything else before we wrap up?
I was just going to say one final point on what you said about the personnel side of things. I think he was slightly unlucky in Jair Alexander not working out. I think, he was probably the player that he wanted to have in there to do the role that Gilman's done that allows Hamilton to free up. And Alexander being terrible absolutely kind of threw that out, but he didn't have the backup plan. And that's kind of what you need as a good defensive coach, is to have a backup plan if that's not working. And he didn't have that until we traded. So a little bit of slack there, but probably not enough for me just yet.
I mean, there's so much still to play for. There's still loads of games to play. And on that note, we shall be back on Thursday night to record. It'll be on Friday morning for our preview of the Browns game on Sunday. Just one last thing before we go. Nathan, thank you very much for giving the what's his name? The oldest looking tight end ever in the league, Brock Bowers, his flowers of the weekend. Because I kept him in my team, 4.9 points. Thank you very much.
I'll tell you what,
I'm not giving you a chance to answer, Nathan. Not giving you a chance to answer.
No, I was just going to say I gave
on
Jackson
that note, we've been Ravens across the pond. We've been Ravens across the pond. I've been Thomas. They've been DC and Nathan. We'll see you on the next one.
Cheers, guys.
See you later, guys. Have a good one.